Welcome back, 9:14. So according to a new study, our dogs' breeds may not influence their personalities as much as we think. Here to tell us more, science and culture writer Sarah Sloat. Sarah, good morning.
Good morning. How's it going?
It's going. So tell us a little bit about this study. What exactly did researchers determine here, and how did they figure this out?
Yes, so basically, the scientists put together this big project called Darwin's Ark, and they invited dog owners to participate. And ultimately, they received 18,000 survey responses from dog owners asking questions about what their dogs are like, as well as 2,000 saliva samples. And ultimately, when they combined the survey responses and the DNA analysis from those samples, certain patterns emerged. One being that breed can only really explain 9% of the variation we see in behavior across all dogs, and no behavior is specific to any breed in particular.
I mean, that's a lot different than what we know about dogs and dog breeds, or what we think we know. I mean, I'm even thinking of, certain dog breeds we see as super aggressive, or certain dog breeds we see as super barky. I mean, where are these stereotypes coming from?
Yes, so they did find 11 regions of the dog genome that are significantly linked to behavior, but these apply to all dogs, and more specifically, the sort of behavior they see that's inherited more often are things they call motor patterns. So that's stuff like retrieving or howling. And these can be, you can see them more often in certain types of dogs, but it doesn't mean that they're exclusive.
Okay. Okay, so if they're not exclusive, then what does a dog breeds really mean for us? What can it help us predict?
Yes, I mean, it may sound a little obvious, but breed more than anything will tell you what a dog looks like. And those things are important, right? The size of the dog, how often they have to be groomed. But it's not going to tell you things like they measured a trait called agnostic threshold. That's how responsive a dog is to feeling nervous or, uncomfortable in a situation. We would normally see that as aggressiveness, but that has nothing to do with genetics, they found.
So, and now that we know this about dog breeds and how they're really not as much of a factor for determining what a dog is going to be like, if there are families watching right now and they always wanted a certain breed of dog for a certain reason, I mean, how do you know what dog is going to be the best fit for your family if it's not, I want a Pomeranian or something like that?
I think it's really important to remember how an environment can shape a dog. How you socialize a dog will help determine how it acts. But it's also really important that people manage their expectations and they're prepared to love the dog regardless of how its personality turns out. So, you can really want a golden retriever who's going to be super kid friendly, but if it ends up not loving having its ears tugged, it doesn't mean it's a bad dog. It's just all dogs are individuals rather than assumptions we make about breeds as a whole.
Yeah, and I'm also curious how this research is going to factor into, I mean, I'm thinking of dog breeds, like dog breed restrictions at apartment complexes, and dogs that don't get adopted because people see them as threatening, or even, local legislation. I mean, how could this type of research maybe change some of those things that are really part of our day-to-day life?
Yes. So my sources, were quite blunt when they say when we think about things like breed-specific legislation, that doesn't have anything to do with science. And ultimately, a lot of the assumptions we make about dogs are stereotypes. And as you mentioned, when we stereotype dogs, that influence which dogs are adopted, which ones are not. But ultimately, dogs are they're like all of us. They're individual creatures, and how you socialize and how you're willing to take care of the dog is going to influence how they really are. And, a lot of dogs end up being returned because of false expectations. And that's something that potential owners really have to have in mind before they accept that responsibility.
Sarah, this is great insight. We really appreciate it. Science and culture writer Sarah Sloat this morning. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely.